It's time now to look at what's happening in the media. I'm joined by listener columnist Bill Ralston and advertising executive Dave Walden. And I'm going to start, good morning to you both, I'm going to start by reminding you about an old story.
Maori cast his line. And so it was that Maui did indeed catch a great fish. Te ika a Maui, the fish of Maui, became the North Island of New Zealand.
And we played you that, of course, because it explains the new official alternative name for the North Island announced this week, Te ika a Maui, meaning fish of Maui. And the South Island also has an alternative Maori name, Te Waiponamu, place of the greenstone. So these are two new names. Will they stick, do you think?
Well, the amazing thing is that I never realised North and South Island were unofficial up until this week. So we've made it official and now we've got two other ones. Look, I think it's about branding. It's about making us feel good about our own country and the unique part that Maori culture features. We've all got used to Aotearoa. We've all got used to Aorangi Mount Cook. I think we'll use these and it'll sneak in. Kids will probably adopt it a little bit faster than the rest of us. But, you know, I think it's part of our fabric and, yeah, we should do it and celebrate it.
Because when New Zealand, we refer to it as Aotearoa, and now that just loosely just falls into our conversation.
Yeah, I heard you and a man from Wellington talk kia ora in each other this morning. It's all good.
But, I mean, what I like is the colourfulness of the Maori names as opposed to the very creative Pākehā names of North and South.
Yeah, and Mount Taranaki's got to...
You can never get them wrong, though, can you?
Mount Taranaki's got to be better than Mount Egmont, you know?
Yeah, that's
Taranaki's
true. That's quite true. Yeah, Mount Aoraki, Mount Cook.
Yeah.
When I was working in the UK, whenever there was a story that came up, which was, typically revolved around sheep. Shrek was one of them. And the announcer referred to the fact that the sheep had been found in South Island. And I said, it's the South Island, not just South Island.
Yeah.
But now that it's officially been named North and South, I wonder if it does become, I'm going to North Island, I'm going to South Island.
I mean, Aucklanders refer to Hawke's Bay as the Hawke's Bay, and it drives, I think, a lot of people in
Everybody
Hawke's Bay
from the Hawke's Bay nuts. Yes, if I ever say that on air, I get quite a few emails through, indeed. All right, let's have a look at another story this week. The editor of the Northern Advocate wrote a heartfelt editorial about crime in his town of Whangarei after his teenage daughter was attacked by another teenager. Here it is. He described crime as his town's dirty little secret in a brave and very personal editorial. I guess, Bill, when journalists deal with something that is real and close to them, sometimes it lifts, I would say, the level of journalism to another level, really.
Well, yeah, I mean, this is column writing. Well, that is an editorial that he did write, but I mean, it's more like a column. Columns work best when they're not actually just opinionated, when they're about what you've experienced and what you've done and where you've been, and, so that people can actually relate more to it and relate more to the writer. I thought that editorial in the Northern Advocate was excellent. I read two more stories by Becca Levin from the Christchurch Press.
I remember that story she wrote.
Well, particularly the one where she suffered the trauma, sort of post-traumatic stress disorder almost. But I mean, that was an extremely good one.
These are great pieces of writing. I mean, if the rest of the stories were in the paper were as engaging and as interesting and emotive as this, the standard of journalism would take a huge leap forward. And you're moved by the stories. I mean, some of them are incredibly personal, and they really bring out a lot of emotion, and it's fantastic.
We had an interesting conversation
writing
about this in the newsroom because at times, a lot of the time, journalists take their work is cynicism and the scepticism, and you kind of have to look almost for the downside or the negative side. Perhaps this is an example of when you're just talking from the heart.
Well, I thought it was interesting that the guy writing about his bursting into tears, suddenly looking out over Christchurch, and he used the line, when the story breaks you. And, journalists are always used to breaking stories, and they do that in a way of, here's the news, and they deliver it. But when the story actually has such an impact that it breaks you into tears, I think it's a pretty important part of the humanity of what we're seeing in journalism.
And I'm thinking of two areas that would come to mind for local journalists that would occur. And one, of course, would be Christchurch. Also, Pike River. I think when you're consumed in that in a small area, that sometimes, you know, it does break journalists.
It's really hard to actually maintain any objectivity in those kind of situations, particularly where there's human trauma, loss of life or injury. You know, you as a journalist get drawn into it, and you know, sometimes, as you say, you know, well, as Becca Levin said in that column, you know, the story breaks you.
And the interview with the murderer's mother, you know, that was an incredibly moving piece of journalism, and you know, I found myself putting myself in the journalist's shoes for the first time, and that's always the sign of a good story, when you kind of say, hey, I'll have a look at it through their eyes.
All right, now Greenpeace has been in the news again, holding vigils and protests for 2 of its members who've been arrested in Russia. It's fair to say the environmental campaigners have become experts in making the news, as you can see here. They are pretty good at getting their story out. Why do you think they are so successful, Bill, at being able to, you know, get Greenpeace in the headlines a lot?
Well, I was heavily involved in the peace movement and Greenpeace in 1973, I think it was, when they were protesting French nuclear testing. And they'd come out of Canada and they'd used the media quite effectively there and to galvanise issues, public attention around the American nuclear testing up near Alaska and Antarctica. Ever since then, and they were extremely successful, I think, too, in the Pacific, forcing the French really to stop atmospheric testing and then testing altogether. They've just grown over the years. They know how to use the media to gain public attention, to gain funding, and then to really pressure countries.
They've become kind of, though, very... they have an opinion about a lot of different things. I mean, you know, people used to say Greenpeace save the whales, then it was save the trees, then it was save the mining, then it was like they've become incredible. We've seen Lucy Lawless, you know, attaching herself to the mast of a boat in New Plymouth or somewhere to make her point about mining. The interesting thing is that in the battle of the brands, the Sea Shepherd has taken over that whole hard edge, let's take on the Japanese down in the Southern Ocean and teach them a lesson, from Greenpeace, who are now seen as a bit of sort of conservation light.
Well, the Greenpeace have moved out from whales into a much wider ranging environmentalism, yes. And it's working for them.
Yeah.
It is indeed. OK, finally, Air New Zealand has a new safety video with another big star on board.
If an emergency were to happen during takeoff or landing, we recommend this delightful brace position.
Or if you can't reach the seat in front of you, put your hands on your head and bend down to your knees with your elbows on the outside and your feet flat on the floor.
Good old Betty. She appeals to a lot of people, I think.
You remember
David.
the Golden Girls, don't you?
I do. That shows my age, doesn't it? I do remember the Golden Girls.
I love the fact that Air New Zealand do this. I mean, we've had Hobbit versions, we've had All Black versions, we've had the fitness guy, Richard Simmons. We've had everyone. And I love it. The only thing about this is that if you're a frequent flyer, and this thing's about 4.5 minutes long. It's a bit like it's the movie before you see the movie. I think you're going to get a bit sick of it. But you know,
how much is this costing Air New Zealand? Why don't they just go back to the hosting, saying, "Do up your seatbelt. If this falls on your face, cheerio."
Listen, at least they're making an effort. They're saying we've got to give you this safety information. Let's make it entertaining. Let's have a bit of fun with it. I applaud them.
And
I think it's good.
just, you know, the host, you kind of doing, you know, the exits here and follow the lines. I mean, who watches that? You watch it maybe twice in your life, and then you go back to reading the paper.
If you've seen the safety video twice, I think that's probably enough. Dear old Betty White,
clearly
twice.
A lot. How long will this video be around for?
We have to watch it all the time.
I did quite like the All Black one. I could have watched that quite a lot. Probably did watch it quite a bit.
Well, there was some, I mean, they have had some creative ones. The Hobbit one was very creative, but I think I was flying a lot at that stage, and I would have done about 12 or 14 flights in as many weeks, and I was going insane whenever it came on.
They did a Middle-earth one. Look, you know, I mean, will you just fly too much, Bill? I mean, this is for the punters, and I think it's fantastic, and I applaud the airline, because so many airlines just go through the motions, everyone ignores it. At least they ring the changes, and they've got a bit of creativity in it, and it's fun.
Put you on the spot now. Where are they going to go next after Betty? What are they going to do then?
Well, I don't know. They may well, of course, look to one of New Zealand's sexiest women.
Oh, please.
And, you know, there's a poll out there. You could be the leading in the next one for them.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. I renewed my subscription. I think they took pity on me and thanked me for it. Thank you very much, David Walden and Bill Ralston.